All right, morning, guys. A little bit late with the stream, unfortunately. Just woke up, but decided to stream anyways because I wanted to see if there was any deadline news and actually probably cover that with you as well. In terms of captaincies, in terms of any last minute things to look at. So, yeah, last 40 minutes effectively of the deadline, we'll look at that. And I personally might be also looking at flipping Foden and Shaw between my team. We did, of course, hear about the Rashford injury. Maybe you could even say injury with quotation marks. Some people might actually choose to play Rashford. I'm going to probably elect to trust what Eric Ten Hag said. So I do think he's injured and I'm going to keep him at the back of my team. Maybe there's a chance that he'll sacrifice Rashford. I don't really see that as well. So that's what I'm going to do. Hey JM, hope you're doing well, and TQ as well. Even Ben C, Vicky. Oh, hello everyone. Shimley as well. Shaw, Watkins. I think Watkins is a great idea this week. I think probably still better than Shaw. The reason why I have Foden is, in my mind, I've kind of got Watkins and then Foden slash Shaw being my 50-50. So I prefer Watkins a bit more than both. Watkins just simply because he's on penalties. He's playing at home. We've seen also the Spurs defense. Look, yes, they got a clean sheet versus Crystal Palace, but that's way too small sample size for me. And plus, that was also at home. So I'm more in the mind of actually keeping Watkins and playing him because I already have Isak in my team as well. I think Vicky, obviously, you've got a different situation there when you're asking about Watkins or Jota out. I would probably go out of I'd probably go out of Watkins, to be honest, in that situation. I think Jota's still a great pick this week. Leicester a much worse defense than Tottenham, so if you're going to play Jota, then I would just sell Watkins in this instead. The slow worms, hello, hope you're doing well too. TQ says, who would you start instead of Rashford, Shaw, Grealish, or Watkins? So I would definitely start Shaw and Watkins, but if you really only had to pick one option, I'd probably choose between Shaw and Watkins. As I said, I prefer Watkins myself, but you can easily pick Shaw as well. This is a week where Shaw probably has the second best defensive fixture. We know that United have some great home form, and I mean, even if you do something silly, like let's just quickly look at like Shaw's history, right? All the home games, I'll say out the points for you where he actually played 90 minutes. So 7 points, and then 5, then 6, then 1, then 5, then 15, then 8, then 6, then 7, then 6, 0. He didn't play, and 1 point as well just to start the season with Brighton. So that's Shaw's home form in a sense. He has missed, of course, some key fixtures too, but pretty devastating change compared to what his away numbers are. And Man United might be the quintessential home defense team this season. And yeah, I think this is a good week to back Shaw if you want to. Stones or Shaw is tough because I do think Stones can be early benched. So I would not really go for Stones, right? Because we could see a situation where Stones could start, but then you could see Rico Lewis maybe coming in at halftime, something like that, because we've seen that a couple times before already. And even though Rico Lewis did play the previous match in terms of leads, I think that is a point of concern. So that's one of the issues too with Foden, right? Where I own Foden, and if let's say Grealish and Mahrez starts, then I think the positive for Foden, of course, is that he could play 45 minutes if, let's say, the game suddenly goes into a game state where Man City are completely comfortably ahead. But that's also probably a bit of a struggle because it is Goodison Park after all. And you're not expecting City per se to absolutely demolish Everton within the 45 minutes. So I think it probably will be a game that's something like 1-3, maybe even 0-3. But could Foden get so involved that he's going to be a much better option than Watkins or Shaw? I wouldn't necessarily say so. Rank Man City assets in terms of Gameweek 37 appeal. So one thing to look at as well with United, or City rather, is probably how many days of rest they actually have after the Real Madrid game. So you see you have this game versus Real Madrid on Wednesday, and then you've got Man City versus Chelsea on Sunday. So that's decent in the sense that you have enough days rest where I would start considering that everyone should be rested for that game. Not rested per se, but just fit for that game. Compared to, let's say, if you look at, let's say, the overhang between Sunday, Wednesday, I mean, it's a little bit different contextually because, of course, it's going to be a much tougher Real Madrid game, in my opinion, than, let's say, uh, City would struggle versus Everton or Chelsea. Because if you think about it, right, so Pep played everyone 90 minutes in the Real Madrid game, and you could see a very, very similar situation in the second leg, right? So that's going to be a lot of minutes for those players. Whereas with Everton and Man City, he could play still the starting team and then actually just rotate at 45 minutes again. And that could be a similar situation with Chelsea, because those are the two easier fixtures, right? Just sandwiched next to Real Madrid. And then the fixtures actually get tough because it's Brighton, so on and so forth. So I would still say KDB is probably the most appealing asset. Then I would actually say it's Grealish, to be honest, because, and let's go with the attackers first, because I don't really want to put the defenders in there. Defenders is a tricky one because with Ake coming back, you could see him be quite useful to the team. And we'll see how Pep, of course, manages his minutes. I think his minutes will be managed. But if I go KDB, then Grealish, then I would say probably Mahrez. Then it's it's Foden or Gundogan at that point. But then, I mean, I wouldn't really seriously consider between the top two options. So for me, it's KDB and Grealish next week, because the way I see it is they should have enough rest to play Chelsea, and whoever is continuing the first team will play those minutes going forwards. So that's kind of how I rate the City assets. I'm assuming, of course, that everyone has Haaland. As far as the defenders, I'd probably still go for Diaz first. Then I'd actually probably go for Stones and then Akanji. Just because I think that Ake, if let's say he's rushed into the Real Madrid game, there's probably a good chance that he could get rested for the Chelsea game because he is recovering from an injury. And as we know, some managers do like giving more of a break to players who are recovering from a recent injury. Not even a recent injury, but effectively two recent injuries from the point of view of Ake. So that is kind of what I'm thinking about there. As far as Martinelli or Odegaard, I think I would go with Odegaard in this situation. For me, Odegaard is the player that I would just stick with, because you're not just going for Martinelli to target Brighton or something like that, right? You're going for Odegaard and Martinelli, and you're thinking about these two picks for the next 3 weeks ahead. 37, 38, those are probably overall more minutes for Odegaard. So when you think about it from, let's say, Trossard could come on for one of these games and Arteta might call upon him, and meaning Martinelli gets benched, potentially even Jesus, but we've mostly seen Martinelli being the one that gets benched with Jesus coming back. That's a scare for Martinelli owners, right? So I would say just go with Odegaard. You don't think it's worthwhile to start Rashford just in case? Taking into account Ten Hag is bold. That's a good point. I guess I could start Rashford ahead of Shaw, but I'm really not sure what the situation is with Wolves. I mean, I don't think he's necessarily lied to us explicitly this season in terms of, giving us sort of deadline, not like a deadline press conference and then suggesting that someone's heavily injured. Because the last time Rashford was injured, he was actually just recovering from an international break or recovering during an international break. And actually, Erik ten Hag was very confident, I would say. He said there was a good hope that Rashford would play. And what ended up happening was that Rashford did play. I don't think he necessarily lied there. Whereas with this press conference, I think taking into account his English as well, I mean, he decided to be quite negative in this instance, saying that it wasn't really a doubt, but more so an injury. So the way I read it was that he's probably injured for this Wolves game, but will come back for us to 37. So I still think that Rashford won't play. Let's see. So Nuclear Atom says free time today, so we can finally tune into Deadline Stream. Good to hear. And I saw your post about finishing your one of your exams lately. So well done there. Hope you're doing well. McReality says Wilson or Isak to captain. Look, I think if we get news, then Wilson is probably the best option. If we get news that Wilson starts at center versus Leeds, then I would just go for Wilson. If not, I would just go with Isak, or actually, you could go Trippier as well. JP says, hi bro, with Varane likely back, who is the better to buy out of Dalot/Lindelof? I would just start Estupinian there, honestly. It's not an appealing fixture, no, but Estupinian still has attacking threat, and he is still someone who, look, could get a miracle clean sheet in one of the games. You've got 2 chances, you have appearance points as well. So I would actually just go with Estupinian. I don't really see the value of going for a transfer. But if you really wanted to start I don't know. Do you have the chance to start two players in the situation you're talking about? Because I would much rather you just play a Estupinian. But if you could start two players, I'd go with Dallo and Estupinian. Is bringing Wilson for -4 but having to bench Mahrez worth it? No, I don't think so. Mahrez or Shaw to start? Probably Mahrez, honestly. That guy says Fran, Wilson, or Isak. I think if you're chasing, Wilson's a very, very good punt. I'd probably go with Wilson. And that's only if Wilson starts the Leeds game. I would go there. But otherwise, I would just go Isak because it's safer for the minutes. It's safer for Gameweek 37 as well. Steele or Ederson to start? Definitely Steele. 3 more exams to go. One of them is on Thursday, so I might... Look, I mean, let's be honest with Steele, guys. I don't really think he will concede 5 goals again in one game, and I think he'll get save points. So actually, Steele for me is someone who I prefer more than the Brighton defenders this week, and that's kind of why I'm looking at that situation. What's up with the voice? Had a pretty long night yesterday, if I'm being honest, so just woke up, and I probably need some water, but I've decided to stream instead. 3 more exams to go. One of them is on Thursday, so I may not be able to stay up late to watch Real Madrid versus... Ooh. All right, for the betterment of your education, I'm not going to suggest staying up late, but that's going to be quite sad. I hope you get to watch the game anyways before being spoiled. Lewis Gardner says Steele or Ederson. Steele, 100%. Hi, would you do Grealish to Bruno for a -4? No, I wouldn't. I would just try to find someone in your team to play. Like, unless you really have like a really terrible bench, like let's say you have Greenwood, you have Totti, you have these players, then okay, fine, go for that -4. But I don't like it. Long night. Yeah, absolutely, that guy. Undav worth it for differential? No. He's a differential, but he's not a good differential. That's my opinion on that. I think I prefer Enciso, honestly. If you go for a Brighton forward, I would just go for Enciso at this point in time. Vandy says, hello, Fran, what should I do? The team is almost the same as yours. You have Grealish instead of Foden and Henry instead of Zinchenko. Okay, 2 free transfers. I mean, if you've got exactly the same team as me, this is a week where you can roll, but I would probably consider dropping Zinchenko to Kiwior and doing that. Or if you can go to Bruno this week, I might consider that as well. Wilson and Mitoma or Mahrez and Enciso chasing rank. The reason why, Vandy, I say that is because it's better to set your team up for 37. I don't think if you have triple Newcastle and triple Brighton, you've got no issues, no injuries, you don't really need to spend those 2 free transfers, right? So this is a good week where you can maybe downgrade Zinchenko to Kiwior. And I know Arteta said that Zinchenko could come back, but I mean, Kiwior, I think, is actually nailed for the rest of the season because Saliba, the big news, right, is that he's out for the season. So if you downgrade Zinchenko to Kiwior, you probably have extra budget and you can actually do maybe a sexy move next week. Gene says Wilson and Mitoma Mahrez and Enciso chasing rank. I like Wilson and Mitoma, my friend, honestly, because I think I would always back an extra fixture. Wilson, I think, is a great pick, and so is Mitoma. And Mitoma will also be a great pick for the next week. Whereas I can't say necessarily the same with Enciso, because if, let's say, March comes back in the second leg fixture, game week 37, I guess you also would plan on playing your Brighton player on 38, so that kind of ruins Enciso for me. But Enciso is a good short-term play for sure. The only issue is I think Mitoma is better. Play Shaw or Foden. I would play Shaw. I mean, I'm playing Shaw myself. JP says, basically looking to sell Botman to Dallo Lindelof so I can get Wilson in. Is that -4, JP? Because I don't really like selling Botman, but it's up to you. Brandon says he's got a feeling City will lose to Everton. I think that might be a bit of a reach if I'm being honest, but Sean Dyche probably has one of the worst records in history versus Pep. It's a different team, of course, with Everton. I don't know. I think it could be low scoring, but I can't really envision City losing at this point in time. Linford says play Rashford or Ruben Diaz. I'd probably just play Ruben Diaz. Nuclear Adam says I've been so out of touch with FPL yesterday that I just found out that everyone was doing and didn't even realize Brighton also had a double. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty terrible double, so it's not the worst news to find out. If you can go for an attacker, I would, but if you are looking at a Brighton defender, absolutely not. Brandon, is captaining Trippier a big differential? So what was Trippier's ownership? I mean, probably something like 80%. It's probably going to be captained by 40% managers. It's going to be a differential in the sense that you'll own like an additional maybe 70 to 80% of Trippier. Excuse me. So that is going to be a differential, right? 80% of Trippier, but is it a huge differential? No, like it's not a big one. Bilal says, what's up? I have two questions. Captain Isak or Wilson, and which should you start between Gakpo, Mahrez, and Odegaard? I would start Odegaard 100%. I would captain Isak if you get no news. I would captain Wilson if you get the news that he starts. Michael Ward says, start Watkins or Saka. I'd start Saka 100%. Umar says, 2 free transfers, nothing to do. Downgrade Kepa for Money in the Bank. Yep, I would do that. James98 says, hey, Wilson for Watkins for free, or play Watkins and roll. See, I would actually think about just playing... I would actually just... Wilson for Watkins is something I would absolutely do if I got news. Otherwise, I would roll. What should I do with Dalot and Ederson? Will they be both playing double game week 37? What do you mean by will they be both playing? You mean will they play both fixtures? I mean, I can't guarantee myself. I would say they probably play... I'd give it a 75% chance that Dalot plays both. I'd give Ederson probably a 95% chance. What do you think of Madrid City game? How do you think second leg will go? Tough to think, because I think Pep mentioned that he will adjust a bit, and he did talk about how they did struggle in terms of some of the gaps that are defenders left, right, for the central spaces. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I think we will play Militao. He'll probably play. I don't know what that means for the shape. I still think Kroos is essential, so we will probably play the same team as we did. And maybe Alaba misses out. But I think Rudiger had a fantastic game, so you've got to keep him on. And he's a very, very physical presence that can deal with Haaland well because he's got good pace. Alaba also had a great crunching tackle. I think maybe we actually would maybe bench Militao potentially for that game. We'll see what happens. I think it's really just down to whether Benzema has his shooting boots on, because he had some good opportunities, but I think he had some pretty poor touches in that game, and I don't really see many chances for us unless Benzema is able to actually score a bit of a jammy goal. Because we created enough opportunities, but I think we kind of let that one slip by not actually making the most out of the second half in the Bernabeu. Or the Bernabeu. But I think when we talk about City at Etihad, they've been also on an incredible run of form. So I'm quite scared about that. And I don't think City will change too much, maybe personnel-wise, other than maybe Mahrez. But that also means that Bernardo has to play a different role in the team. So we'll see what happens there. I think he talked about the dynamicism of Foden, which is interesting as well, because Everton are also a team that will sit back, right? But we've seen that they're capable of exploding on the counter-attack. So this is actually a good... Like, the reason why I'm actually doubting Foden starting is because Foden can easily play on the right-hand side. And actually, if you wanted to rest Mahrez for the Champions League game, then actually it would make sense to play Foden for 45 minutes. But alternatively, you could argue that this is a good chance to play Mahrez for 45 minutes, rest him for 45, play Foden for 45, and actually play Grealish for, let's say, like 70 minutes, make some subs there. And that's a good world for Foden to be in terms of minutes, but not a good world for a Foden start. And then when we look at the Real Madrid game, these are the same players that will play. We get an additional day of rest, but of course we're traveling still and we're playing away from home. I think we could win. I'm hopeful that we win. Of course, as a Real Madrid fan, but I do think City is very scary. So it's going to be worrisome with Haaland and another chance at us, basically. All right, let's go back to FPL questions though. Kepa or Raya? I would go with Kepa. Ruben Diaz or bring Enciso in for a -4. I would just play Ruben Diaz. If Foden isn't starting, do you think Pep will start Stones either? No rotation would see Stones in 11. I do think Stones will start, but the issue once again is, do you think Stones will actually play the full match, or even actually play enough to actually get a clean sheet? Because you know Pep doesn't give anything about playing 60 minutes. Start Grealish or Shaw? I'd start Shaw. Brandon says, would you captain Willock or Trippier if you're chasing ranks? I'd captain Willock if I was chasing rank. If I wasn't chasing rank, I would actually just pick Trippier if I didn't get deadline news, and then I would pick Isak if I was if I got the news that he started and Wilson was benched. Yeah, Benz did look a little bit lost. Like, the touches were just poor, second touch slow. It's tough. Last Saturday I had to use data during my class to find out the City lineups. I decided to go with Foden because he was scoring and assisting in less than 20 minutes. Yeah, look, it's tough. I went with Foden as well, but you know, we should have got an assist, but that's all we can say. Henry, thank you so much for being a member for 14 months. Really appreciate the support and always the comments and in general on YouTube. Rumors, Kama DM, Alaba left back, Rudiger, Militao. Yeah, I mean that's an alternative, right? But then the tricky thing is, what is that going to mean? Does that mean we drop Rodrigo? Because I think that would probably signify Modric, Kroos, Camavinga, right? So do you think, who do you think gets benched? Should I play Isak in Gaming 37 or bring Havertz for? No, I would go Isak 100%. I don't like Havertz at all. Johnny says, yo, Fran, what's your opinion on Bruno pick? I think Bruno is fantastic. I think Bruno is actually better than, for example, if I look at my team now, I would 100% start Bruno over Watkins, 100% start him over Shaw, and start him over Foden as well. Great pick for this week, and even better pick for next week too. Stones or Diaz? I'd go with Diaz. I think it's, look, if you had to gamble how many minutes people would play, I'd probably put more money on Diaz playing until the end of the season. So every week I'm going to tell you Diaz is more nailed. Diaz also got rested last time out, so hopefully this is a Diaz game. Greenwood to Isak and Ederson to Everson, or Alvarez to Isak. I think Alvarez to Isak is quite sensible. Pep said there will be changes. He kind of said there will be changes, but more in terms of the grand scheme of the games, right? Because he was saying we have the FA Cup final, we have Premier League, we have Real Madrid, and we have a lot of games left. So he said there will be changes, but also you don't know how many changes there'll be. And also, changes doesn't necessarily mean positive things, right? He's also suggesting there'll be changes in game. So let's say Foden doesn't start. Let's say Mahrez and Grealish starts. Okay, Foden could play 45 minutes, but is that really enough for you to start Foden sometimes? And that's the issue. I think Kroos should be benched. His crosses were off, and Modric does better in UCL. It's a tough one because I mean, even Pep in his press conference did talk really positively about Kroos and how that kind of hampers, like it actually does nail City back because we have that outlet pass. And I do think Kroos had a still okay game for City. Yeah, El Confidencial says Rodrigo's dropped. Yeah, that makes sense, Harry. I think whenever you see Camavinga come into the midfield, that probably just means Valverde pushed up because Valverde's, I would say, to Carlos, my more essential. James says start Shaw Mahrez. I'd probably start Mahrez, if I'm being honest. Jordy Lee says, yo, Fran, what we saying? Captain Mac or Trips? You know what? I'm actually going to see if we actually have any deadline news, because I think that would be quite interesting to just check if we get any news about people starting. Apparently, I don't think we'll get Newcastle news. And someone might get it in 10 minutes, so hard to say there. Yeah, there are no leaks right now, as far as I'm aware. Let me know, of course, if any of you guys do get leaks, but so far, I can't really see anything to suggest that there are leaks. Isak benched, and I mean, Andy Martin is terrible, though. Like, Andy Martin has some of the worst starting / rotation kind of Heinz, like, picks. I mean, last week he said Grealish was starting, didn't he? I can't remember exactly what he said. Play Foden over Steele. Yeah, that's funny. I think Foden over Watkins is the right move. But the issue is I feel like you have to kind of put in situations where Foden might not start. And because Foden might not start, I think Watkins is still the move for me. Dragos says, how would you do? Rashford to Bruno for a -4. No, I would not go out of Rashford because I don't think the Rashford injury sounds that severe, right? It seemed like he was just talking about Rashford's going to miss out versus Wolves. And you probably want Rashford next week if he plays 2 games. And also, honestly, I would rather have Rashford and Bruno. I wouldn't really want to have Rashford out. What made me get Foden? So I went for Foden for a 1 game week punt last week because I knew he would probably start the game. And honestly, I just chose between Foden and Mahrez. Now, Mahrez, of course, as it turns out, got 2 assists. Foden got a penalty assist, but didn't actually get the penalty scored because Gundogan took it. Yeah, I mean, I knew Grealish was benched. I had the chance to do a 1 week punt. The way I see it is I had triple Newcastle. I have triple Brighton. I didn't need more than 1 free transfer. So this was a week where I always saw myself rolling. So if I go into Gaming 38 or Gaming 37 rather with 2 free transfers and I could play around with my midfield, it's the same situation that I would have ended up in with going Grealish in my team. for the last 2 weeks. So that's kind of how I saw it. Now, of course, as it turns out, Zinchenko came up with an injury, so he might not make it to Gameweek 38. So if I had an additional free transfer, I would just go Zinchenko to Kiliard this week and then actually just go Foden to Fernandes, or Grealish to Fernandes, but that's how things go. Stones start. I'm not confident in that, but I do think he will start. The issue, as I said to many people before, is does he play 60 minutes? Kepa and Raya both don't have good fixtures for the last 2 game weeks. Who to downgrade? I mean, Raya, I think I would downgrade first because Kepa's got a good fixture this week. So Watkins, Shaw, Stones. I'd go Watkins, then Shaw, then Stones. Would you take Hakimi back at Madrid? Yes, but I do think he is slightly overrated in that I think he's not the best right back in the world, and I wouldn't even put him in my top 3 per se. Should I play Trent Alexander-Arnold or Mahrez this week? I would play Trent for sure. Is Andy Martin reliable? No, he's not. He's not. Wilson captain in. Is that based on any kind of news, that guy? Mustafa says, which 2 to start out of De Bruyne, Rashford, Diaz, and Shaw? So I would go for... I'd go for Shaw, because I think he's actually going to play 90 minutes, and actually he has a really good clean sheet opportunity. Plus, he's on set pieces, so I actually like Shaw more than everyone else. Then I would actually just go for De Bruyne, because I'd rather gamble on a De Bruyne start than a Diaz start. So no, more in the sense that I think De Bruyne has a good ceiling if he plays. Yeah. I will die inside if I see Foden score a brace. Not worth the potential stroke. That's a good point. I'll need to contain myself if Foden starts. 100%. I mean, Andy Martin is not a leaker. He sort of pretends to leak things every week, and it's terrible. Would you take -8 to get Newcastle forward? No, 100%. I would not take a -8. Ibrahim says, hi, Fran. Foden, Mahrez, or anyone else for Grealish this week? I mean, if you really want to go out of Grealish, I would go for Mahrez. Odegaard, Mahrez, or Joe Linton for Rashford just for this game week. But why are you transferring Rashford out, though? Are you really confident in the other 4 midfielders you have for 37? I would pick Odegaard, though, just because I know he starts. I don't really like Joe Linton. I'd actually rather go for Willock if you really have to make a transfer, but I don't like transferring Rashford out. It's still a must this week. I mean, I'd play him over any single game week keeper. JT says, start Shaw or Estupinian. Start Estupinian for me. Everyone on Twitter actually taking his words. I mean, why is that? I mean, we've never seen Isak as like he's not a good leaker. I mean, we can go back to his message history if you guys want. Because last week, I'm pretty sure he said Grealish starts, and then he didn't. So, yeah, I mean, Andy Martin's never been a leaker. I wouldn't be worried. Yeah, I mean, still, we don't have any news. Let's just wait 5 minutes, of course, at 10:50. But I think Andy Martin's just trolling. Don't take it seriously. At least not now. I would still wait 4 or 5 minutes. I'm not going to take Andy Martin seriously. Why not start Rashford? If he's out, your bench player will come on. Yeah, but I mean, could there not be a situation where Rashford could play 10 minutes, 5 minutes? I mean, you're right, to be honest. Maybe I should do that. Oh man, the temptation to play Foden is just right there, staring me. And now I have to change Foden to Shaw on the bench. It's such a nailed clean sheet though, so I've got to do that. I've just got to put Shaw in ahead of Foden. And then like Watkins, like Tottenham have been a pretty poor defense. Like I've got to be honest. And then Foden, I really think Grealish will start. And then it's a toss-up between Mahrez and Foden. But how many minutes will Foden play? If I knew it was 90, then of course Foden's in my team. But you've got to prepare for some sort of eventuality because Shaw's got a great game on paper, right? He's got a great game on paper versus Wolves. Still capable of getting bonus, and honestly, United home defense, incredible form this season. Watkins versus Tottenham, very, very poor defense. He missed a huge chance last week. hoping that he doesn't do it again. But I think Tottenham have been a pretty poor defense, and we've seen them get capitulated at Anfield. We saw it. I mean, they should have conceded more versus Brighton. We saw it versus Newcastle. I love going for Watkins this week. I know a lot of people don't rate Watkins because he's got 2 points, 1 point, and 1 point, or 2-2-1, or even 2-2-2 and 1. But I don't really believe in form that much. I think the chances are still good. The expected goals look terrible versus United, as you can see. But this is a good defense, and Tottenham are not. So, yeah, that's kind of how I just feel about playing Watkins. ETH said exactly the same thing last time Rashford started, but the difference is that this time he said it was... No, but that's not true, though. Are you talking about the international break Rashford situation? I completely disagree. That's what Erik ten Hag said. He literally said in that game, before that game, that he had a good hope that Rashford will play. This time, he's actually saying that there's a big doubt. And actually, more than a big doubt, he's saying there's an injury. So I feel like that's a completely different circumstance. I would 100% disagree on your take there. If you're talking about the situation of coming back from the international break, maybe if you're referring to another one, I don't know. Christian says, I don't see a situation where Rash plays 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, fair enough. I'll just put Rash on my team. Somewhat agree. Start Botman or Grealish, Botman. 0.1 on McAllister. Any ideas of what to do, e.g. Trent to Shaw? Whoa, I would just do just gross. I think this is such a good Trent fixture. And honestly, I would play Trent on the next 2 weeks as well. So I can't see myself going out of Trent. I would just keep him. Kepa, Raya, I would go Kepa. They kept a clean sheet last week. Spurs. Yeah, I know they did, but they're playing away from home. Very big difference. And since when did keeping a clean sheet last week give you a clean sheet the next week? Rashid says, I have Diaz and Stones. Should I start them both or keep one of them in bench for Solanke? I'd probably start them both. Minus Watkins for Watkins in, Jota out. I don't like that move. I would just go with Jota and just play him. Would you start between Kepa and Ederson? I'd start Ederson. Lysander says, what's up? Hope you're doing well. Zaid says, would you rather start Shaw versus Wolves or Dunk on a bad double? I'd actually probably think about Shaw. There's no late team news. This is 10:50 now, so let's actually see if anyone actually has leaks. No, doesn't really seem like there's leaks anyways. Heisenberg said he might have news at 10:50. I'm not seeing anything leaks-wise. Yep, no one seems to actually have news, which is a bit of a shock, but it is what it is. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that suggests that there's Newcastle leaks. If you guys find anything over the next few minutes, obviously feel free to shout and chat, but I can't see anything myself. Shaw, Solanke, and Gakpo. Which two would you start? I'd start Shaw, and then I'd probably start Gakpo. Play Shaw, Foden over Rashford, Watkins. Play Shaw, Foden. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'd definitely play Shaw, but Gundogan or Stones? Steele or Ederson? I would go with Steele. I would go with Stones, probably. Tough, because I do think this is a chance for Gundogan to get rotated, right? So if Gundogan gets rotated, you probably see Bernardo in the midfield. You probably see Mahrez playing as well. In that right wing situation, I'd prefer Mahrez to Foden. So, yeah, tough situation there. I'd probably pick Stones. Saka to Mahrez -4 or wait till next week? Wait till next week, 100%. This is such a good week to play Saka. I would play Saka. Kinger says, hi, Fran. Sorry if this has been addressed. Really, I have Steele and Raya. I'm leaning Raya for the fixture. I just don't see Brighton keeping a clean sheet. Yeah, but the thing is, Kinger, right? You get appearance points, and even if you concede 2 next game, you can get save points. And you could... And also, I mean, look, there is a miracle situation where Brighton could get 1 clean sheet. I don't think it's crazy. And you're also almost suggesting that Raya will get a clean sheet, which I also think is false. So I kind of like going for Steele. And I would play Steele over any single game weeker, as I said. First sub, Shaw or Dunk. I think it's a pretty big toss-up. The thing about Dunk that I don't like compared to Stupinian is, first of all, no save points, right, compared to Steele. But then compared to Stupinian, probably not much attacking threat. So in that instance, I'd actually go for Shaw. Love you too, Jordy. Start Solanke or Trent. Trent. Watkins or Akanji to start. I'd probably go Akanji to start. If I'm chasing, should I definitely go? Actually, I might go Watkins. Actually, in that situation, Joe Linton a good differential. I think Willock is actually a better differential this week because we didn't have positive Longstaff news, and Willock is actually fit. Team news and ticks just confirmed no team news from him today. Yep, that's sad, but I think that means I'm going to Isak captain. Like, why not? Who's actually tripping? Actually, let's do a late captaincy poll. Just want to kind of see what you guys are up to captaincy-wise. And I'm going to throw in Erling in there as well. We can have 4 options. I feel like punting on Wilson captaincy without news is tough, but I mean, good luck to you guys doing that. But I think it's completely justifiable if you're trying to chase, and that's fine. Because who isn't? Start Solanke or Trent. Start Trent, Joe Linton, a good differential. Sort of answer that. Triple captain. I mean, no, I would triple captain on 37, my friend. Unless you have more chips, but I would 100% triple captain next week. Nuclear Adams, yep, got that. I think Ahmed says he'll do the Wilson move. He needs some excitement in his life. Fair enough. Good luck with that, Ahmed. Just gonna do a last second. Yeah, there's no Newcastle news, so unless you for some reason think that Andy Martin has got more sources than Team News and Ticks, good luck with that. I'm just gonna captain Isak. I think. Why not? You've moved to Wilson from Burn. I mean, look, that's a much better pick than Burn for sure. So yeah, why not? Start Akanji or Solanke. Start Akanji in that situation. Botman for -4, bench Shaw. I don't think, no, I would not go Botman for -4. I would just play Shaw. 100% play Shaw. Who to start between Akanji, Shaw, and Pinnock? I would start Shaw, and I would just end the question there. I would go Akanji second bench, and then Pinnock third bench. Or not even that, but just first and second. Dover says, hell yeah, Rash on the bench, Grealish into the midfield. Oh, don't tempt me to go Foden. Kind of worried about that. I don't really know what to do in that situation. Like, I know I got Foden for a punt last week, but I didn't necessarily even think that I was going to play Foden this week, so I don't think I should be so worried about Foden in the end. Yeah, it's kind of how I feel about it situation-wise. I know, yeah, it's going to feel bad if Foden scores, but this is a great Shaw game. This is a great Watkins game too. Praise be. Rashford is the last sub in bench. I mean, you can start Rashford. I agree with people in the sense that I think he either starts or he gets in, like he's benched or he's not in the squad. Breaking the 10k rank today, Fran. Yeah, hopefully. Let's make sure that we end in the top 10k rank though. Everyone tweet no Newcastle news from me. Yeah. I wish I actually had some ITK sources. Do you know what I mean? Grealish to Odegaard. Yeah, that's it. I actually would condone that move if for example it actually allows you to go for players that you want for next week. But remember, double game week 37 is where you want to have a lot of double game weeking midfielders, and Odegaard is not one of them. So try to think wisely about that move, because it could hurt you going from Grealish to Odegaard on 37. So I wouldn't really recommend it. Chloe says I've captain Salah. Okay. Targeting that Leicester defense. That's actually, it's not a bad move, you know. I think that's a pretty good captain. For a single game week captain. I'm just going to tempt myself with Isak, like, why not? It is what it is. Shaw or Watkins to start. I'd go Watkins first. You won't be able to handle Isak outscoring Wilson. I mean, I don't think the chances, like I would actually give Wilson and Isak pretty similar chances to get good points. Start one of, and it's, yeah, but as you say, it could be a huge 50-50, right? Fimo, start one out of Kane. I mean, start Kane. Start Martinelli, probably over Shaw. Yeah, I would keep it like that. I mean, you could go Rashford, then, you know, Martinelli first bench, and then Shaw last bench, because you've actually got a really strong team there. Nuclear says play Kepa. Raya, I would go with Kepa. I mean, he can still get save points, as we've seen So kind of the same excuse that we always give to when Raya loses clean sheet points as well as to why he's a good keeper, because the Chelsea team is pretty fragile. So I would say go Kepa. Is Captain Willock viable? I think it's viable. Would I want to do it? Probably not. Yeah, I mean, there's been no significant news in terms of I don't know. I can't see myself going for Foden sadly this week. It's hard to justify, but yeah. Tough situation. Wilson if I'm chasing. Yeah, I mean, I would go with Wilson and Willock if you're chasing, because Isak, what was his ownership last week? Something like 36%. Wilson's ownership was like 8%. So if you captain differential, yeah, you're going to fly in rank if he does well. And I think a lot of people are captaining Isak and Trippier. So if you go Wilson, it's a huge differential. I don't think he's a bad option. I've never thought he's a bad option, but I just went for Isak 2 weeks ago. So that's kind of the situation I'm in. You get the chance to go Wilson this week with no news. That's fine, because I think the suggestion that, for example, he would get benched, for example, for 2 fixtures like that, that's just ludicrous. So he should start one of the games, and hopefully in the game that he starts, he'll do well for you. So Wilson is a viable captain. Just in, Isak benched. Are we being serious? Just in, as in, who is just in? Who's coming just in? I'm Isak captaining. Like, sorry, yeah, I just am. Unless you've got a great source for me, I'm not seeing it. Just ruined my season. Good luck. What do you mean? Oh, you're going Wilson captain? Good luck with that. Might not play Haaland because of UCL opinions. Nah, I disagree. I think Haaland is fit and he's young. And we've said Pep. I mean, we've been way too scared with Haaland, right? I mean, think early season. There's no reason to guess that he'll get benched magically. So you kind of have to just go there. Make your transfers, guys. Make your captaincies. Lock them in. Thank you guys so much for watching as well. Really appreciate you guys being here. If you could like the video and also just subscribe, that would also be really appreciated. Are we forgetting what Gandhi said? Henry, did you bite on that? Please don't. That's the deadline, guys. Foden, Rashford's in my team. Shaw's first bench. Foden second bench. If Foden actually starts, I'm gonna be a very bitter man tomorrow. Oof. Yeah, I don't know what to say about me next week if Foden gets benched. I mean, Foden starts. We'll see it. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week. And good luck, of course, with all your moves. Take care.